Today we've got Totally Me Tracy Jacobs. She's a well-known intimacy and relationship coach from Morningside, Johannesburg, and you're also a podcast host. Welcome today. We are so excited to have you. I just want to hand over to you to give us a brief introduction.
Thanks, Kat. Thanks for having me on your show. Very excited to be here. So, I'm Tracy Zimond Jacobs, intimacy and relationship coach of Totally Me. So I am a mom of 3 independent children, and I have been doing this work for approximately 10 years. I love what I do. I'm absolutely passionate about changing relationships, giving relationships a chance, actually. My practice is in Morningside, Santon. I do face-to-face interviews, sessions and online sessions. I work from my home, which is quite fortunate, and I have a lovely setting at home which is quite peaceful, and hopefully I create a very safe environment for my clients. Mostly couples, but I also see individuals who are struggling with sexual dysfunction. When I say dysfunction, I mean with difficulties connecting to their sexuality, or some clients who are non-orgasmic, battle with orgasms, battle with sexual intimacy. And I just really love what I do and very excited to be here.
Amazing. Okay, perfect. So tell us what the number one relationship killer is in your opinion.
So in my opinion, the number one relationship killer is contempt. Contempt for each other often leads to emotional abuse, and it comes out in the way in which couples speak to each other. They're quite critical of each other. They use very disparaging, and they belittle each other. They talk down to each other. So I would say that would be the number one contributor.
Okay. So let's chat about sex during life stages, or as I like to define it, the pre-baby stage and the post-baby stage, because I think in my experience that was quite a shock even to myself.
Yes, of course. So the pre-baby phase really is more spontaneous. The couple are having sex quite regularly. They are having sex in most places in the house. And of course I'm generalizing because not everybody does this, but it's not time bound. They can make noises, they can feel free to express themselves sexually without being aware of, their surroundings. Between the ages of 20 to 30, women are most fertile, and so their hormones play a big factor in this. They have high levels of estrogen and testosterone, so they have a strong physical response during sexual intimacy. During the ages of 20 to 30, women have a lot of sexual desire, they experience a lot of satisfaction, and they're quite orgasmic. During post-hormonal changes, after having a baby, looks really a lot like fatigue, low libido. This does improve over time, but it generally lasts for about a year. The couple obviously has less quality time, they're less spontaneous, they worry about being interrupted by the baby, they are watching for signs that the baby's going to wake up every moment, so scheduling sex will really help here. They are generally very exhausted due to the demands of small kids. They need to mentally prepare themselves for sexual intimacy. At this stage, the couple really needs to be communicating their needs, understanding their different stages of desire, and rebuilding intimacy can take time.
Yeah.
The couples do lose a sense of bonding, but my advice is that the couple need to prepare for these changes beforehand and have lots of conversations about the possible changes to their lifestyle.
Absolutely. Okay, perfect. So I see you chat a lot about sort of self-love and all of that. How important is this, even though you have a partner? Because One thing I've sort of experienced is that sometimes people think that if you've got a partner, that should be enough, which I don't necessarily agree with.
Okay. Yeah.
What is your
Um,
opinion?
well, I strongly believe that women need to be engaged in self-pleasure. And from quite a young age, I do encourage that they start to learn to touch their bodies, that they need to know how they like to be touched. They need to know what turns them on, what buttons their partner needs to push, literally. They need to explore their erotic zones. You know, the vulva isn't the only way to pleasure a woman or to turn her on. There are different erotic zones. Her neck, light kisses or breathing around the neck. Kissing is a major erotic zone. Sometimes the massage or light touch around the navel area. Some people say behind the knees, and also the nature of the touch, whether they like a soft touch or whether they like textured touch. They also need to know their arousal patterns, how long it takes them to become aroused, whether they prefer being touched or stimulated, and have the vocab to be able to say harder, softer, slower, faster. These kinds of things are very important. But I always compare self-pleasure to tasting chocolate cake. How do you know that you like chocolate cake unless you've actually experienced it? There's a lot of taboo around self-pleasure. And once we unpack the taboo around self-pleasure and we allow ourselves to be engaged in this kind of pleasure, then it's really important that we engage in this kind of self-pleasure so that we know what we want, we know what turns us on.
Exactly. Okay, perfect. So, what are the biggest misconceptions when it comes to sex and intimacy?
Well, I love this question because a lot of people misconstrue the word intimacy. They think it means sex, but the truth is that intimacy actually means connection. And when couples come to me looking for more sex, what they're really asking for is more connection. There are different types of ways we can experience connection in a relationship. And there are 5 different types of ways. The first one is sexual intimacy. And then there's emotional intimacy, which is the way in which the couple connect on a very deep emotional level. And whether the space is safe to do that, whether the couple can hold space for each other when deep emotions are expressed, whether they can discuss things that are really vulnerable for them, and whether their partner can just be there as a shoulder to cry on or just a sounding board, and the partner doesn't have to be solving any problems. The other type of intimacy is intellectual intimacy, and this is about, again, creating a safe space where we can have conversations, where our opinions matter, where we can talk about our goals for the future, where we can actually solve problems, where we can resolve conflict that doesn't always land up in an argument and nothing gets resolved. We can't make plans for a holiday because we are both, we have differing ideas, and the one storms out, and so on. The other form of intimacy is physical intimacy, which is really about quality time. How much quality time do we spend together as a couple without family and friends? What do we do that is fun together? Can we be playful together? Can we have date night where we engage in activities that are bonding and exciting and fun? For example, we don't have to always go out to a restaurant, but we can do date night at home, and it can be powerful and connecting through activities. We can also do things outside of the home as a couple, even if it means that there are other people around. For example, a cooking course or salsa dance night or a quiz night, something like that. And then the last type of intimacy is spiritual intimacy. And that is about awareness. It's about consciousness. It's about being able to read my partner's mood, my partner's emotional state as well, without taking things personally. So if my partner's feeling a little bit down, not to think that, what have I done wrong?
Yes.
Am I to blame? Being able to be empathic with our partner, respectful of the way we talk to each other. And spiritual intimacy is also about just being quiet, just being present together, and having that safe space just to be able to be completely comfortable with each other. Maybe watching a sunset. Just being in that present, mindful space together.
Yeah.
So those are really, also what creates connection, what creates intimacy is communication. And that is something that I stress very, very much, because communication creates curiosity, it creates empathy, it encourages listening, and we can validate our partners once we've really heard them. It creates honesty and trust and a sense of safety.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so in your opinion again, what are 3 relationship areas that can be worked on to sort of spark up a relationship that's maybe grown a little bit stale?
This is another topic that I really do love, and it's something that I talk about a lot with my clients. So the 4th type of intimacy, physical intimacy, otherwise quality time, is something that I really believe can spark up the relationship and improve it. Because the couple need 3 things really to improve connection. And that is communication, first and foremost, because communication is the key to any successful relationship. And then they need a commitment to each other, that they're going to really work through this connection and that they're going to be present. And then the other most important element in this is curiosity. Because we may, in long-term relationships, we may think that we know everything about our partner, and we make a lot of assumptions that are not true. As long as we remain open to learning more about our partners, we become more open to understanding deeply about the way they think and the way they feel. And it's surprising that once you use these 3 little words, tell me more, how your partner will open up and give you more information that you had no idea that feelings and thoughts even existed. The other thing that during quality time is really trying to release all inhibitions, becoming more playful, having more fun together. For example, sitting in the bath together and talking about the old times, reminiscing, laughing, maybe being a little bit playful, playing footsie, tickling each other's feet, just doing things that are out of the ordinary, mixing things up, being brave to do things a little bit differently. Yeah.
It's so powerful, actually. It's adding a bit of silliness into what is usually like a very maybe routine-based life, especially with kids, if there's kids in the mix. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we've chatted about all the sort of things we can do to improve sex and relationships and that, but let's chat a bit about the ugly side of sex. We live in South Africa. It's got amongst the highest levels of gender-based violence and rape. Unfortunately, I have to ask this question because I think some women, or unfortunately even children, won't recognize what this is, but how do we recognize it? And most importantly, what do we do if there is sexual abuse going on?
Yeah. Firstly, I think that children have an innate sense of what's right and what's wrong, and what feels good and what doesn't feel good. They also have a sense of when they're safe and when they're unsafe. That's the first thing. As we get older, and what we have to teach our children is about consent. That no means no. And we have to teach that, we have to practice with them. That if something doesn't feel good, I did this with my children, that they need to point a finger and they need to say no. I used to teach them this from quite a young age, that no means no. So we can try as much as we can to teach our children about boundaries and about consent and good and bad touch, or comfortable and uncomfortable touch. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that we have quite a big job on our hands, and that is to teach boys about respecting women is a very, very big thing. But it's also more about respecting themselves. And we come from a society that is very toxic when it comes to women, and toxic masculinity is almost, it's sometimes traditional, it's cultural, and we need to dispel those myths as well. We need to be teaching young boys that this is no longer a sign of power, and we need to be teaching them to respect themselves, to want more from their lives, more from themselves, to have goals, and to see women as people, as equals, as having feelings, as being equal to themselves in terms of their goals in life, their needs for self-determination, and just get rid of that toxic masculinity that they are exposed to from such a young age. We've got a big job in educating our boys.
I think one of the other myths as well is that a lot of people feel like it's only a certain segment of our society, and that couldn't be less true. It's all backgrounds. Absolutely. It just comes in different forms, and unfortunately it is what it is, and it's got to be pointed out.
It's all races, all cultures.
Absolutely.
We have bred and are still breeding a generation of very angry little boys, very hurt little boys. We have to improve as mothers as well. We have to improve our attachment styles, making boys feel safe, giving more touch to our boys, positive touch, giving them messages about positive sexuality, inviting them into conversations about how to treat a woman, how to treat themselves, how to moderate their emotions, regulate their emotions. So it starts with parenting, definitely, and it starts with a community awareness that we have to be giving our boys more education.
Absolutely. Okay, perfect. So let's move on. I know you've already touched on this, the importance of touch and smell when it comes to sex. So it's more on the sensory, but a lot of people say that sex starts in the mind. So what is your opinion on that?
So the brain is the largest sex organ in the body, and the brain can either shut us down and refuse to let us experience sexual pleasure based on old scripts, religious scripts, body shaming, things that we were told about ourselves from a young age, about our bodies, about how we can express our sexuality. Or the brain can actually allow us to change our minds about our bodies and our sexual pleasure and how we wish to interpret the scripts that were given to us, passed down to us by family, culture, religion, and so on. So this is the power of the mind, the brain. We just really have to be exposed to different options and become open to differing opinions and different thoughts. The second largest sex organ in the body is the skin. And some people don't experience positive touch, and that can turn us off experiencing pleasure around touch. So we need to also teach our children, our boys, how to experience a positive sense of touch, and knowing that the advantages of touch actually activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the system responsible for producing the love hormones, oxytocin, serotonin, and dopamine, because we live mostly in our sympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for expressing anger or feeling anger and resentment and frustration. And this is what keeps us in our daily fight, flight, fawn, freeze responses. So we need that to exercise that parasympathetic nervous system so that we can feel calm and we can experience emotional bonding in an emotional connection. So coming to smell and
Touch.
touch. Yes. So touch, as I mentioned, can either be trauma based. It can either remind us, so if somebody is grabbing us or it's aggressive, if it has been abusive touch, then obviously we're going to guard ourselves against any kind of touch. But if we have experienced pleasurable touch, we're going to want more of that, because that appeals to the dopamine responses, which is that of reward. So the more I get, the more I want. Also, if the touch has been for bonding and for emotional connection, we're going to want to feel those love hormones again. And then again, we will want to reach out for more of that, or we will want to withdraw from more of the uncomfortable or the traumatic sensations around touch.
Absolutely.
As far as smell is concerned, it's very personal. A bad odor can be very off-putting when it comes to being close to somebody, and yet a bad odor can be quite arousing. When I mean a bad odor,
Yeah.
because when we go back to our ancestry roots, there was no such thing as deodorants. Bathing was very rare. It happened very occasionally, and it was associated with our real basic, our
Natural.
carnal, just body responses.
Pheromones.
Our pheromones, and it can be very arousing for some people. The truth is that some women really become more aroused when their partners smell good. I read somewhere that that men are aroused by what they see visually, and women are aroused by what they smell.
That's me. Yes.
It happens to be me as well.
Yeah.
But again, as I say, it's quite powerful. For me, if a guy smells bad, if there's BO, it's a massive turn off. Also, a bad smelling breath doesn't make me want to kiss them, doesn't make me want to be close to them. So it's very important that we be honest with our partners. Yeah, hygiene is very important.
Goes a long way.
For sure.
Okay, so let's talk about a very contentious issue, sort of subject, pornography. So I know a lot of young men are addicted to it, and they sometimes get this idea that that's a natural way of having sex, that's what sex should be, so it gives them a false idea of how it works. But is there a way of, maybe if things are a bit stale and could pornography be used in a good way to spruce a relationship up? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I'm porn positive. I do believe that porn can teach couples. It gives them tools. It gives them a sense of increasing or expanding their fantasy repertoire. It gives them tools how to actually perform certain acts. For example, oral sex. For couples who are virgins before they get married or haven't had much experience, they don't know how to perform oral sex on each other. It can be very educating. It can also encourage roleplay, which is fun, playful, and again, it just opens the couple's repertoire for fun and playful sexual intimacy. Obviously, like everything in life, it needs to be taken moderately and with some kind of balance. Another thing is that porn also promotes arousal. in the couple. Some, as I said, men are visually stimulated, visually aroused, and sometimes women are also visually aroused.
Yes.
So we have to be careful that there is this fine line between using porn to become aroused every time we engage in sexual intimacy,
Yeah.
and rather like just using it every now and again for a little bit of a spice up. And the fine line is rather, using it instead of actually using our imaginations, talking, dirty talk, which we can also learn from porn, and we can release our shame around it. Dirty talk, for example, we've got to be very conscious that we're also connecting intimately without the use of porn.
Yes, there's no reliance on.
Yeah, yeah. And I think
Okay,
that this is
great.
where self-pleasure comes into the mix. Not only for women, but for men as well. Men, self-pleasure is a taboo for them, especially among certain religions. And so they get used to watching porn and having to induce an orgasm secretly behind closed doors, in dark corners, in the shower, washing away shame. And so they rely on the porn to have a quick orgasm without connecting with their bodies. And this
Yeah.
is very, very important because, what we need couples to be connecting consciously. So it's encouraged that men also take the opportunity to self-pleasure consciously, lying down, like women have to do mostly,
Yes.
and really consciously, slowly, mindfully self-pleasuring without the guilt and shame. Another thing that porn does, which is harmful in relationships, is that we often compare our lovers to what we see on the screen. And we compare, penis size, and we want sometimes men want their women to have larger breasts and to be shaved everywhere, and we just sometimes porn can create unrealistic versions of what sex really looks like. And what we have
Yeah.
to remember is that porn takes place in a studio, in a film
Yeah.
studio, and there's lots of cut, start again, different angles, arch your back, pout more,
It's acting.
scream more. It's an act. It's actors in a studio, and it's
Exactly.
just not a true depiction of what sexual intimacy is all about.
Yes,
Yeah,
especially with expectation with different positions, or like, the women all have different boundaries and some guys too. So it's also important to remember what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do.
exactly.
Okay, perfect. Let's chat about STIs quickly. It's so important. All very well to go and have fun and explore and all of that kind of thing, but you have to be careful too. So, what would you recommend to sort of protect yourself?
So the first thing that I would do is encourage parents to talk openly with their children about sex positivity, and to not educate them that around fear and sex. So the messages that we need to be giving our children is that sex is pleasurable and sex is fun. We should be giving our children messages that sex is pleasurable, sex is fun, your body is a vessel for pleasure, and that we should also value relationships, of course, and we should value committed relationships. But then having sex should not be shameful or create guilt, and also depends on your values as parents and your morals and so on. But most importantly, we should be teaching them that your body is a vessel for pleasure and not shame. So
Yes.
that's the first thing. The second thing is that we should be teaching them that as much as sex is fun and sex is pleasurable, there are dangers around unprotected sex. And the dangers are as follows: teenage pregnancies. And what does that mean for a teenage pregnancy? What are the consequences? But we shouldn't be doing it with the fear of God. We should explain to them what sexually transmitted diseases are and how easily they can contract them. The use of condoms, the use of consent, absolute consent. Again, we should be teaching them the value of no. We should be teaching them the value of autonomy over one's body. We should be teaching them their self-worth, more importantly than pleasuring a partner or making a partner like them, rather than giving value to the partner over valuing their own body and sense of self. And those are the messages that we need to be giving our children, more importantly than the fear of God, going to hell, sinful, the pain, the blood, the guilt, the shame, pregnancies. And we just need to be educating them differently so that they, when they do engage in sexual intimacy, whether it's before marriage or during marriage, that they can actually experience pleasure.
Yes. And I suppose by doing all of that, you're creating a sense of responsibility. Okay, perfect. How important is sex as you age? Does it have any benefits for women that are postmenopausal?
It definitely has many benefits. Sex throughout the ages is very, very important. When we engage in sexual intimacy, we are actually activating the parasympathetic nervous system. There is pleasure associated with sex. But remember, sex is a smorgasbord, or sexual intimacy is a smorgasbord of activities that isn't only orgasm focused, but is focused on pleasure. And pleasure includes touch, it includes all our five senses, what we smell, what we see, what we taste, what we hear, and how we touch. So this needs to be the focus for a lot of people, even into middle age and menopause, postmenopause, because sometimes postmenopause couples battle with being orgasmic, or there may be some erectile dysfunction, or postmenopausal vulvas are dry, and we need to use hormone replacements and creams and such. But we also need to know that there is not only one way to achieve sexual intimacy. And we need to educate
Yes.
the population who are experiencing difficulties, who are a little bit older. But it's very, very, very important.
And also the chemicals that are released are extremely important.
Correct. It creates bonding, as I said, emotional attachment, dopamine responses. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, perfect. The last question, in your opinion, why do you think there's so many women that struggle so much with finding pleasure in sex, and how can we overcome these obstacles?
For many reasons, many reasons. So I'm going to mention a few, not necessarily in order of importance, but the first one being past sexual trauma. The second one being scripts that they were given as children about their bodies, messages that were given to them by religious institutions and culture, body shaming. There are really all depends. There's shame around experiencing pleasure. Sometimes we've been told, only prostitutes behave like this, only sluts wear short skirts like this and show off their bodies. There's a fear of pregnancies and STDs. Yeah, there's a lack of education. We don't tell our girls that their bodies are a vessel for pleasure. We give them all this fearful information. Those are some of the reasons. Sexual trauma doesn't have to be rape or
Yes.
sexual assault, things like that. It can be my first experience, my first kiss, or my first time I was groped. Even if it was the boyfriend and I was a teenager, and how it made me feel inside. It can be anything that we experienced around sex that was traumatic. Yeah. So how do we overcome these obstacles is that we recognize through therapy what these feelings are and what they're associated with. and then we dispel the myths and we allow these people, women, to experience pleasure without the guilt and shame.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Tracy. I wanted to ask you, are there any upcoming events or workshops or maybe social media collabs coming up?
Well, what I like to do is hold couples events throughout the year, and we have one coming up, I think it's in March, a paint night evening for couples where they actually have a lot of fun getting to paint each other. Whether you're an artist or not an artist, it's a lot of fun, a lot of feeling silly, being playful. So that's the theme for our next upcoming couples workshop. So just stay tuned to all the social media handles, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok.
Can you give us all your contact details actually? Can you give them to us so that people know how to contact?
Sure. So you can contact my office and get all the updates about upcoming events. My website is www.totallyme.co.za. You can make an appointment there with Claire. And then Instagram, Facebook, TikTok is at totallyme.tracy.
Thank you so much for joining us.
More information.
Yes.
Thank you for having me, Kat.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.